Welcome back to
This is a Hi Guys episode.
Okay. Hey everyone. So, as you guys may have guessed from the title of the video, we will be talking a little bit about our architectural school experiences, and our experience. The point of view is actually quite different for the two of us because I started my design education in India,
And I did mine in Dubai.
Yeah.
And we feel like we have there's so many differences, so many lessons that we've learned along the way that technically aren't the same at all. And we also have a lot of points and stuff that we think we wish we knew before we joined. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about this time.
Right. So one thing that I wish I knew before joining classes was, so I was very passionate about design, and I wanted to go to this college exactly. And so I knew what I was going, like I knew I wanted to go all in. But the thing was, I think that's also a constraint that I had in my education before architecture college. It was that it was always like limited to, okay, you learn your class, you go do your homework and you're done with it, right? And I think that's something it took me a year in architectural design school to pick up, because for me, again, I started limiting my experience to education in class. So you'll have studio exercise, you'll go back home, you'll work on it, and then you'll go party with your friends. And that was about it. And I was blessed enough to be in an environment in Delhi, basically, where you had so many access, like free access to museums, to art exhibits. Some of the brightest minds in the world would collect together and have conferences. And there was so many great talks and seminars that I think I lost out on because I completely restricted my education experience to class. And no one will ever tell you that, because, and it's not just me. I think at least most people in my batch had the same thing. And it was a revelation in our second year when we actually started exploring a lot more. I mean, we were always exploring the city, but in a very, very different point of view. And it's when I think second year hit, and then we were all like, did you know this guy is coming to town? Did you know? And also back then, I mean, this is years ago, okay? So Instagram and all wasn't like a really huge thing, where reels would come up saying top 5 exhibitions you should go for this week. You had to actually put in an effort to find all of this. So it's probably also because of that. And it's second year, I think, when it started getting a little more, okay, guys, we need to be doing this as well. And but I still think I missed out on a lot of opportunities because college was tiring on its own. And then after that, and then going for other talks itself is an added effort. I'm not going to deny that. It's going to be a little difficult, but that's something I wish I knew. So I could have availed a lot of those opportunities.
For me, I had the same point. A lot of self-study is required in our field. We can't just expect to, the knowledge you learn in class is never enough, because there's constant innovations, constant change in design, there's constant theories and different ways people do things coming out all the time. The only way to know that is to exhibitions and go for seminars and go for conferences. So that's something, the only thing that I wish I did more is because I feel like I didn't really, self-study also means I would refer books, I would go to the library, check out books and stuff as well. But the internet, please explore the internet. I feel like with architecture, there's such a strange concept of learning so much
design
of design. Learning the history of design is such a big part of it, right? We kind of forget that our generation now is purely about technology and innovation. That's something we should be jumping into more.
Yeah.
But self-study, it's such an important part. I know most people are just college is for having fun. And it's definitely for having fun. But I feel like this is exactly the point that you pick up on a lot of skills, especially in the field of design. And self-study is the only way to get through that.
Yeah, but it's very, very hard because, for example, in our college, we had talks every Wednesdays and every Thursdays, I think. And it was like a choice. So Friday, because it was India time, Friday would be the studio submission day for our particular design assessment or assignment. And so we had to choose, do we go for this talk that's going to last 3 to 4 hours? Or do we work on the submission that was due in a day? Or if we go for the talk, you'll have to pull a night out and probably 2 night outs to get through it. So it's a huge, you have to think a lot through.
It's a priority that you have to choose.
But I wish, you can't really say that I wish I had prioritized this over my education.
I agree, but I feel like you can...
It's hard.
It's hard, but you got to make the right choices for each thing, each time.
Yeah.
But another thing on my list of things I wish I knew before was not to care so much about grades. Like, I throughout school, someone who just I was like very like grade focused, and I really fucked up my health. So with architecture, I decided that I will just purely aim to pass, and I scored like 8.5 every sem or whatever, and that was more than enough for me. I mean, sometimes 7 too, but as long as I passed, I was okay with it. But like my thing was basically I wanted to design. So, and I knew a lot of people who were the same as uni. Like their grades were probably not as great, but the designs were wonderful because they didn't really bother with the deadlines that they gave you, and they did submit definitely, but they submitted half the work if they wanted to, but they were not too worried about the grades being a focus, because what happens is the more work you put in initially, the harder it is for you to change something little later on, because you've done so much already for one submission. Taking back all that work is a little tiring and to think about it, but definitely your portfolio speaks more for you than your grades ever will. So it's really,
I actually
really important.
disagree with that entire point.
Really?
Yeah. Completely, because
I don't.
The college I went to, first of all, it's very specific, but if you scored grades, then only you got hostel admission, which meant in Delhi, which is considered absolutely unsafe at that time, I had to choose between staying by myself outside or scoring a certain mark so that I can stay in a safer environment. So that's the first catch in that. Second thing is, that is true, portfolio speaks a lot, but for example, for master's admission, portfolio is not enough. You have to have good grades. So you shouldn't like be obsessed with grades. Agree?
No, but I feel like that's where the thing goes. Like I know some people who are obsessed with their grades, their design was very mediocre. Because like the grades were all that mattered.
But I think that depends on the studio faculty you get, because that's another thing about design school. Like you could do the most amazing design and get nothing, or you can do the most shittiest design but click all deliverables like plans, section, 3D views, and get an excellent grade. So you need to realize how you're scoring your grades. Are you scoring it because you know something and you're putting that to paper, or are you scoring because you hit the deliverables? And I'm not gonna lie, but I've used that. Like when I'm not in a state to design, I've definitely just ensure that I've had all my deliverables in place so that I get my grade. That is very true, but you need to be aware that you're doing it, because it doesn't make sense doing like 3, 4, 5 years based on the design course that you chose and getting through it only because you had all your deliverables in place but had no idea about what functions went into it.
And the problem with only fixing on deliverables is another point that I had, which is basically in the real world, you're designing with constraints constantly. There's never just like, just do what you want to do. It's a fun project. It's always, you need this for the client, this for the contractor. And with that kind of mentality in the real life, you only get to be free and design and be passionate and, I don't know, make a building on top of the ocean or whatever the hell it is, between middle of like a valley. These things are something you never get to do in life. And these 5 years or 4 years or whatever time spent designing is the only time that you get to do whatever the hell you want to do. And I feel like when you put marks into that thing, you add these constraints to yourself, which just makes it so sad, because like I remember making these mistakes. Like I didn't design as freely as I wanted to, because I was like, but then if I really sell this house, will anybody even buy it? Like who's gonna want to design this? Who's gonna stay in it? But it didn't matter, because it was just like a thing that you were doing then.
But another thing why grades are important, for example, if you're applying for a scholarship to do your master's, without grades you're not going to be able to avail that offer, right? So I think you need to have in mind, see, I didn't score well all my college life, anything, okay? I've had my highs and lows, but it's very important when you have a reasoning to it, when you speak to the college. For example, if you show progress from your first year to your fifth year, if it's constantly increasing, or if it has some lows but it's also got some highs, if you can justify that entire graph of it, you should be fine. So it shouldn't be about I need to get 10 on 10 every time, but it should be about like what it's worth and what you're actually offering, if that is up to the value that it needs. And as long as you can justify, it's a very complicated subject,
But I feel like
grades or
but I feel like at least with masters you kind of figure it out, but at least when you get into your bachelor's you're very grade focused, because that's kind of the set you're coming from. Especially with college where like you don't get hostel if you don't get, like obviously that's going to be more prioritized, but don't forget to be free and enjoy the process, because that is most fun part about our field in that way.
Oh my God.
What's another point that you had in
okay, so this is where I think when I meant, I was like, I wanted to prioritize my grades. Sometimes that came at the cost of my health and mental well-being, right? So that I wouldn't affect my design in the process. So I prioritize grades and the actual quality of my design over my mental health and my physical health. And it was fine then, because when you're in your late teens and early 20s, your body will get through it all, okay? But you know how we talk about like compounded value after you start investing in money? There's also compounded negative effects from not investing in your health and mental well-being. And many of us, actually almost all of us who went through this process, we're all at a phase now where we're getting through those repercussions. So I know hitting those deliverables are very, very hard in architecture school, but you know what, even if you flunk it, it's okay. You're not going to lose your life. And I think that is a very, very important part. I hate how toxic it's become, where we've normalized the idea
Of
that
all-nighters.
a design school people don't sleep. That is okay. That's just how
That's just
architecture
normal.
is.
That's
That's
how
how
all it is.
interior design is. And you enter work. This actually came as a revelation when I started working, because I started working like a student. I was like, okay, I'm going to stay in the office and finish this project and how much ever time it takes. And then my boss came, and he's a wonderful, wonderful mentor. Okay, he came out to me and he told me this. Okay, you're not living to work. You're working to live. And you it's important that you're passionate about what you're doing and you don't restrict it to your 9 to 5 or whatever it is. But it's also important that you realize when it's taking a toll on your personal well-being. And I hate how normalized it's become, in our entire field. Like, like you don't sleep, just like take Red Bull and coffee and get through whatever it is you have to get through. No, guys, you get one life. And how much ever important that submission is, plan it ahead, make it work somehow. If you can't get through it, ask for help. Do whatever it is. But
get more organized. I think that's a big part of this whole process. Like even when I work right now, organizing your work really helps. You'll figure it out, and the earlier you figure it out, the better.
Yeah,
but that's true.
And it's not to say that for example, people will expect proper submissions for whatever deadlines they give. It's fine. Have a conversation with them. If it doesn't work, you sometimes have to do it. But what you can do is, when there's a negative impact, then try and make up for it later that day or later that week. Do something where you neutralize the effect that particular exercise had on your well-being. I don't know if that made sense.
It makes sense. Like, you gotta find a balance, and if you sometimes go onto the one side, make sure the other side is balanced out as soon as possible.
For example, for me, waking up early made me a lot more productive during the rest of the day. And that might not necessarily work for everyone, but find your balance.
Yeah, you're 5 years or whatever.
You're going to figure it out. Just allow yourself to figure it out.
You will figure it out. Another tip that I have, which I knew more or realized more, would be, so I did a lot of competitions. I've done like 15-20 competitions just when I was in architecture, and maybe one or two after I graduated. I'm not really sure right now. The tip that I have is, please make sure that you get to design every kind of typology that you want to. Like, it's so important to kind of design everything you want to when you're in college, because in the real world you don't get to. Like, in my entire I've made sure that whatever I did not get to design or I've wanted to design and didn't get to, I have tried to design in competitions. There are so many free websites to get free access to competitions if you're a student.
We'll actually do a reel on top competitions you guys should do.
And there's you can just honestly just Google free architecture competitions for students, or people working professionals, and you can still do it even if you are not. The amount it has opened up your mind to such crazy ideas, and
even if you're not in the design profession, you still give it a shot.
Yeah,
it might be a really cool exercise.
Yeah, because it doesn't cost you anything either.
Yeah, not all competitions are paid.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely not. And most of them have a cash reward or some kind of award ceremony or something as well,
incentive to do
it. And it's truly the best thing ever. But that also comes with another fact, that's saying I have done 15 competitions. They have almost entirely consisted of the same kind of people in my group. That's because we know what our strong suits are, we know what our weaknesses are, we know who can do what, and that makes it easy for us to do competitions when you do as many as I have done. But I think it's really important to do competitions with people that you do not vibe with at all in college, because in the real world you don't get to choose who you work with. And I feel like you get so comfortable working with the people that you're comfortable with, and you do only the parts that you want to do or you're good at, that you never get to do the other parts. Like, I'm shit at composition, and my friend did the competition for all sheets all the time. But now in the real world, I struggle with that because that's not something that I chose to sit and learn. So I was just like, oh, she's good at it, let her do it. I'm not going to waste my time doing it, because I'll do something else in the meantime. But it's so important to work with different kinds of people. And it's also important because I feel like when you're being a designer, it takes a long time for you to learn to accept criticism. And the only way you will act in criticism if you don't work with your friends, because strangers and people who don't like you, people you don't get along, will tell you to your face that this is shit, you need to get better at it. Okay, you need to develop thick skin. During college, after college, you need thick skin. The amount of times that you will be told, someone told you to your face that your design is shit, and like the pain you feel, like but the way you grow out of it is just so important to you as a personality, for your personality and just for your overall growth. So do a lot of competitions and work with a lot of different kinds of people constantly. Do not stick to working with people you're comfortable with, or your friends, or whatever convenience that you're choosing it out of. Don't do that to yourself.
And another important thing is, I remember a lot of people actually giving me advice in my architecture in design school, saying that the best way you can become an architect is by never being attached to your project.
Yes.
And I thought that was true, but I completely disagree with it now, because I think what happens is, if you develop thick skin, right, attached or not attached, you will always be open to hearing conversations and hearing critiques and always working on it. But I feel like having an attachment to design just gives you this extra kick of passion to always want to make it better. It gives you this extra kick of passion to always think of something a little more different. It gives you an extra kick of passion when you see it in full bloom and when you hear criticism, actually, because you're like, yeah, that's what's going to make, because you, at the end of the day, your priority becomes, I need to make this better than what it was. And having that little bit of attachment always gives you an extra thrust to hearing conversations. But at the same time, if you're doing that, you need to have a thick skin, because without that, it's very hard to accept criticism. And I myself included, I've had trouble accepting criticism. In the sense, I'm like, but I don't agree with it. But you need to think very, very objectively. Is it going to make it better? Sometimes you hear a lot of comments on aesthetics. Okay, you don't need to always listen on aesthetic comments, because everyone's aesthetic idea is very different. So just because that person says, I want this to be in some color palette, and you don't agree with, doesn't mean you have to change it unless that person's a client. But when it comes to functionality, when it comes to making the design perform better, it's very, very important to always listen.
I feel like during college, please try to get yourself as accustomed to the enjoyment of designing landscape. I hate landscape. I don't understand what the point of putting a tree here is. Why I don't give two shits about the kind of tree. But you guys, it is so important in the real field. And the amount of jobs you will get just if you like landscape. And the fact that I didn't
if you don't know, watch YouTube, or if that's not possible, pick up an internship with a firm that you have no idea what it's about, like a landscape firm in your case, or do like a lighting design firm.
Yeah, just like learn landscape. I feel like landscape is something that's get you through life, even if you can't find anything else, because there are a amount of people who hire landscape. It's crazy. I did not realize how big a field it is.
The landscape context in general has to
any kind of
to fix up flaws in the building. Is magical.
It is beyond. It's so important. But another point being, score as many internships as you can. Like unpaid, take it. Just take the damn internship. A good company, not good company.
Decide. If you're going to, for example, unpaid internship, like a very, very far away place, you have to spend petrol prices are high. Ensure that you're not putting in money to get to an unpaid internship.
Unless it's like some insane company, this is
not by the title, but by the work you will be working
like choose your pros and cons of the situation. But do as many internships as you can. Like, I know we get 5 summer vacations only, but I wish I did 5 internships in those summer vacations, because it really made a difference to the entire.
Start from first year. It's very hard to get first year internships for sure.
Definitely.
But maybe ask for recommendations.
Yeah. And
first year students, I think you guys can afford to do unpaid internship, because that's the only internship you will be offered.
Yes.
Unless I don't know, you're
really good. But and another point, I forgot what I was going to say.
I think it's to pick up passion hobbies, to pick up actually any hobby in architecture school. Any hobby, do as much as you can. You have no idea what dance is like, go for that dance class. You don't know what singing is like, go for those classes. Because oh my God, the way that will uplift your soul, your mental being, and even as a creative exercise, it's unimaginable.
It's so important.
For example, you pick up dance classes. Okay, you're just like, okay, I'm doing this for the fun of it. And that's good enough. But sometime later on, maybe you have to design a dance school. You know exactly what spaces you need around you. It's always going to give you like a plus point at some point in your life. But even if it doesn't, it's okay. Do it for that present joy. Like, invest in not just long-term joys, but also that instantaneous bloom or burst of joy that you may experience. Go for all of those workshops. Go learn pottery. Go learn anything and everything you have to. Ensure that you also get time to sleep, but like do as much as you can with the time that you can.
I know I feel like another thing that's really important is by the time you finish school, right? I feel like it's kind of important to know what kind of designer or architect you want to be, because like, are you going to get into the technical side of life? What is your strong
intense pressure?
But like, I feel like it really makes difference, like I feel like I
had a whole different idea about what I wanted to be doing.
I feel like if you're at least mentally prepared, I feel like technical I feel like it's easier to get a technical related job than to get a concept related job. Get it? It's easier to get a draftsman job and like build yourself from there. But I feel like it's important to know where you are, because like, I feel like it matters if you're a form follows function or function follows form kind of person. I think you don't know what art design you want to be, at least have that figured out, because I am a function follows form.
I don't think any architect that I at least know is going to openly announce I'm a form follows function. No, function follows form. Wait, are you telling me you're a function follows form person or a form follows function person?
I care about what's going in the building first before I design the building.
Then that's form follows function.
Yeah, that's what I said.
You said function follows form person.
No, I meant...
Yeah, okay.
Inside to
that's it.
How is that function? Function is...
2 hours later.
Yeah, so first you design function, then you design form. Yeah. My God, just cut this whole section out. I confuse myself so bad.
When you say function follows form, it means you design form and then the function will be following that.
Yeah. Function follows form. I was like, No. I design first for the insides.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's
no, but that's who's going to announce that at the end of this thing that I'm going to be a person who cares only about form and not give a shit?
I definitely do. I don't care too much about how... the building...
No, I'm saying, you're a person who prioritizes function. I'm saying who's going to say that I don't give a shit about what's going inside.
That's true. That way.
So I don't think that's
No,
I don't think you need to know anything when you get out of architecture school. Even if you don't know what you want to do because I had a very different idea about what kind of an architect I wanted to be. It all changed in like 3-4 months. And it keeps changing also.
Very true. That is right.
So it's hard to have that kind of confidence. But if you do, good job. I didn't know.
No, I mean, I had a confidence, but I'm not in that field anymore. So there's no much point in it.
But for me, not knowing is the best part. Because then you take up jobs that you think you want. And you know you don't want it, but you still get the experience from it. Instead of going for a job, that's exactly what you want and missing out on chances.
And then not be happy at the end of it as well. Because that thing is really truly how we've made
or being happy, but so you'll never shift now. So you'll never get any of the other experiences.
You need to be flexible. Being flexible is such an important part of this job, like nobody really thinks about.
Yeah.
But that again comes through working with different kinds of people, different typologies, different kinds of talking to different kinds of architects, designers, whatever. Like I feel like communication is a big part of our job. And like, having the balls to, oh my God, another top point. Okay. Like when you, I feel like it's important to at least start roughly combining your portfolio from the very beginning of college or design school, because don't wait till last minute to be like, oh shit, where's my sheets from first year? What did I do then? Like it's dumb. Like nobody
like no one told me there was something called a portfolio till I went to architecture school. Guys, there's something called a portfolio.
It's basically just like not your CV. CV is just like the skills you know, but portfolio is all the work you've done, which is very mostly related to like design fields, I would say. But it's important to have portfolio in the very beginning. Just keep rough compiling. No one's saying to make a Pinterest board out of it. Keep your shit together. Know what you want to put in, and it's your portfolio. Make sure that you have, because it's important to show your growth as an architect or a designer from first year till the end of it as well. Make a portfolio. Also, when you go for these conferences, when you go to meet people of influence in the field, do not be shy to give them a portfolio. You will not know when you will get a call back. I know friends who have scored internships that way. It's important to always be proud of your work and make sure that you are confident with your work when you go to meet people. Like I know friends would come for like these architects would come for like workshops and like seminars to uni, and my friends would straight up go and give them their like portfolios, and they have scored internships that way.
I've also scored internships. And I've scored more internships meeting people at seminars or conferences than I've scored by sending them emails.
Yeah, because it's our field is something that shows confidence, and you need to be confident with your work.
And always when you meet a person, you're more likely to like a person a little better than getting an anonymous email.
Yes.
So that's a really good point. And another important thing is whatever conferences you go, whether you're typing or writing, compile and keep it as a very, very separate folder, so that you always have an idea like there's that conference. Okay, let me just check what that technical detail that person shared on the screen was like, or what that concept board or mood board or what that was like. It's always going to be, just keep everything always compiled.
Yes, it's
is
quite
the-
important.
Yeah.
It really makes a difference in the end of it. You're like, oh, should I keep? I hope I kept. Like, I kept everything I had.
Yeah.
But like, since nothing was really like kept. Like, I had everything, but it was not compiled in the order or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, it was kind of like all over the place. And it gets very overwhelming as well. But I
Yeah.
think that's pretty much all the extreme
I
tips.
also go for a lot of walks more than
Yeah.
driving or taking the bus or
Inspirational
the
walks.
yeah, it's just you learn to notice a lot more things when you're walking than when you're driving, because obviously you have to be attentive, or taking a ride because then you'll be on your phone or
Yeah.
whatever it is. But like, just walk and just look around, especially the streets.
Yeah.
How it's not just for architects, okay, just any design. It's just so nice to just walk and see how people are interacting, how
Yeah.
the entire context is
Yeah.
interacting, how buildings are interacting, and the colors are interacting, the textures. You just learn
There's
a
so
lot
much you can
more
learn with that.
on walks.
What
than
most people
on anything
appreciate
else.
when they walk is what we notice as design keys when we walk around as well. Nothing else is like, it's more important to never miss site visits when you go from college, or even if you can't score them on your own, go site visits, talk to people there, learn about the structure, how they've done stuff.
Yeah.
The amount of site, like, I have such an insightful thing. Like, I know, like, even though I didn't get a lot of experience of what Indian people, like people in study in India, get to in the design fact of it, I got so much of like commercial experience here, going to so many kinds of different kinds of typology buildings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even my friend and I, whenever we had to design something, like we were learning, I think, seating designs one semester, she and I would just keep going to malls in the UAE and checking out all kinds of
Yeah.
design, like, false walls
Yeah.
and like, gypsum boards, and going around knocking on stuff to see what kind of material it is, and checking out the kind of joints that we think is
Yeah.
inside. It's fun because like it's kind of a cool experience where like you get to, I feel like architecture seems so cool because there's no TV show about it. Like, oh, cool, architecture people are going around doing stuff. There's law shows, there's medicine shows or whatever. But this is a very important field. And
It's so sad. We had to do this like as part of our course curriculum in college. Okay, just like walk around and stare at buildings. And but I remember because we had a submission in my first year. First year was like one of my worst years in life. But because of that, I was always so drained. I did a lot of things just for marks' sake, just for deliverables, without actually putting any thought into it, any passion into it, nothing. And this is actually one of my biggest regrets in life, that there were so many of these opportunities, but because of how I was feeling or whatever it was, and not instead of solving what I was going through, I was just going to get through it all,
yeah, just get down
flash
semester,
speed.
get done with
And
this.
I did all of this. Everything that I did my first year was purely for the sake of submission, and that involved like going for site visits or whatever it is, and just like writing it, okay, that's it, and not register. I don't remember anything from my first year because of that.
I
So guys,
I
just-
remember.
I
most
know
of
it
them.
sucks, okay, sometimes design
Yeah.
school can be so
It's quite
hard on you.
overwhelming. It's like there's
And-
too much.
But ask for help.
Yes.
And if no one's helping us, DM us. I will. Any of us would be so
Happily,
into
so
help.
gladly
Because
help
it's something
out.
I'm so passionate about that I normalize for myself
I agree.
and for all of our friends getting through this toxic relationship with design school. But if you can find a solution to it, it'll be one of the most wondrous experiences of your life.
It really is. As much as it is overwhelming, it is equally comforting to be in design. And I
Yeah.
truly hope that we have given you some good tips.
Yeah, and if you're not in design school or you don't plan on design school and found this an absolute waste of your
Send it
time,
to somebody else who you
Yeah.
might think will benefit from it.
yeah, we understand. The might have seemed a little bit, approaching just design students or
yeah, but we needed to
professionals.
give like a foundation for the rest of this.
Yeah,
how it's gonna go.
it's just to explain what. Yeah,
Yeah, but like I said, these were just like some of the tips you could think about, but we're definitely so much more to share, which we hope to keep sharing with
and
guests.
sorry, one more thing. If you're not a design professional but you found this interesting, you know what? You should just hit up all the museums in your area,
Yeah.
all the exhibitions. We'll maybe start releasing reels on, top places you can check out. If you're interested in finding a little more about this and having these conversations, these are great places where you can meet. Actually, remember Expo? One of the best experiences we had was in this pavilion where this guy had this entire room filled with architectural models or whatever, but he was not an architectural professional.
He was a
had
graphic
nothing to do
designer.
with architecture. And we had the best time having a conversation with him. So don't think, this field is kind of restricting and it's like
Yeah.
a club that has no access to,
And he was being a graphic
non-professional.
designer. He knew so much about architecture,
Yeah.
and he was telling
lot,
us so much
yeah.
about it.
It was, and it's also interesting to see other perspectives on
Exactly.
the same things that you think in a certain way. And so, guys, we want this to be inclusive, as we've been saying since the start. So go for these museums, hit up workshops, and do all of that. And yeah, and let's make this a very well-designed, happy place to live in.
But yeah, thank you guys for listening to us for
Thank you.
so long. We hope that this was helpful. And please make sure to check out our Instagram, our TikTok, all other social media platforms. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this video,
Yeah.
especially, and comment as well. Please
Yeah.
share it with everybody who you know is in design, who isn't in design,
Or who's wanting
to get into
Yeah.
design. I mean, we have so much more tips and stuff, but then we could
Yeah.
just keep talking about it for hours, and that's not the point
And
of
if you have
it.
any questions more, just comment down below and we'll get back to you.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.